Hello, it's Theophiliac. I don't know about you, but I've got the feeling that we are in the end times and the beginning of sorrows that Jesus talked about, famine, earthquakes, pestilences, wars, and rumors of wars. These are all on the way. And today I want to talk about some end times prophecy, specifically the beasts in Daniel's vision of the four beasts, and also how it relates to the end times beast of Revelation. Let's have a look. This is the passage of scripture in Revelation 13, and I won't go through the whole thing in view of the time it would take. I'll let you do that. But there's several things that relate to Daniel's vision in Daniel chapter 7. The leopard, the bear, the lion, they're all there, and 10 horns. Let's go through. First of all, what is a beast? What do they represent in the Bible? And first of all, they can represent spiritual beings of great power, evil and good. Leviathan in Isaiah and Job, if that's not the devil himself, then it's one of his major cronies. Certainly isn't just a dinosaur. The bulls of Bashan that compassed Jesus around on the cross in Psalm 22, they certainly seem to be evil principalities. And have you memorized Psalm 91 for this current epidemic? In there, the young lion and the dragon that we trample under feet, that's not talking about lions in Africa, that's talking about demons, isn't it? And likewise, the God's living creatures in Ezekiel, and the beasts around God's throne in Revelation 4. And of course, Jesus himself is typified as a lion or a lamb. These all mean spiritual beings. But the thing about Bible prophecy is it can be near and far at the same time. History doesn't repeat itself always, but it rhymes. And the trick is determining what exactly is meant. In the same way, a beast, or its pronoun, can refer to an evil spirit or its empire that it is possessing, or the man that it is possessing. For example, Daniel 7:11, I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Empires don't end up in hell, and a spirit doesn't have a body, and it can't be slain in that way. So obviously, in this case, in Daniel 7, it's talking about the Antichrist. So the visions of Daniel, these are fascinating. I love reading the book of Daniel, and there are 4 visions, and my opinion is they all relate to different periods of world history. The great image of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the head of gold, the shoulders and arms of silver, the belly and thighs of brass, and the legs and feet of iron and clay. These are the 4 great world empires, and you've got to also relate them one to another. While they primarily relate to world history in different times, they all, in some degree, relate to the very end of times. And that is important. We have to reconcile them together. And typically, almost all commentators will say the 4 beasts that rise up out of the sea, one after the other, in Daniel 7, are these same 4 empires: the Babylonian, the Persian, the Greek, and the Roman empires. But that's not what the text says, actually, and we'll get to that in a minute. Likewise, the ram and the rough goat, this is the struggle between the Persian Empire and the Greek Empire. And also relates, there are parts of that that relate to the end times Antichrist. And of course, the kings of the north and the south primarily is about the four kingdoms that arose after the death of Alexander the Great, and especially the suffering of the Jewish people under Antiochus Epiphanes. He's a type of Antichrist. And even in there is plenty of material that hints at the nature of Antichrist in the end times. So let's talk some more about this. This is the reason the four beasts that arise out of the sea in Daniel 7 can't apply to those Babylonian, Persian, Greek, and Roman empires, because the angel explaining everything says these great beasts, which are four kings or kingdoms, which shall arise out of the earth. At the time of Daniel's vision, it was the first year of Belshazzar. The Persian Empire was already contesting for dominance with the Babylonian Empire. Those empires were well and truly arisen already. This is talking about future world powers. And that's the exciting thing, because I think they're talking about world powers on the world stage right now. And have a look at Daniel 7 and then follow along with me as we go. This is the first beast that arises out of the sea, which is like a metaphor for the human race, and the struggles and the lack of tranquility that is typically going on. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Now, what does that mean? Well, typically, they will say that relates to the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire had an emblem of a winged lion. But as we know, that's not what the text says. And look at the emblem of Nato. It has a winged lion. And of course, what does the lion represent? England, typically. And what does the eagle represent? The USA, and sometimes Germany. So at least according to this prophecy, the eagle's wings are plucked. And if you've been following the steady decline of the United States, you could see the writing is on the wall. It is being systematically taken apart. And this is part of the Roman Catholic Church's war on the Christian West, or the once Christian West. And I predict, going from this vision, that the United States will no longer be a world power in the short term. It's going to be plucked. And NATO obviously is going to have a major setback. And from this being lifted up from the earth and made to stand on a feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. This is typically what happens to prophets in the presence of God. They are so weak and absolutely demoralized by being in the presence of such holiness that they need to be lifted up and stood on their feet. And a man's heart was given to it. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar was given a beast's heart, and then his reason returned to him. This is a beast that's been given a man's heart. Could it be that England and what remains of NATO will, after its judgment, will return to God and return to its Christian roots? I'm not sure, but it sounds hopeful, doesn't it? A man's heart is much better than a beast's heart. A man's heart can repent, and a beast's cannot. The second beast is easier, right? And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Now, typically, this would have been, in the commentators of old, this would have been the Persian Empire after the Babylonian Empire. And they could never really explain why it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it. Well, bear, typically in our time, would be Russia, right? And it's raising itself up on one side. It's going west. Not much point in going east. It's just snow that way. It is devouring toward the west. And of course, recently, Finland and Sweden have decided to give up their neutrality and join NATO. They're applying to join NATO. And if you look at the shape of those long, skinny countries that are bent, Sweden, Finland, and its NATO neighbor, Norway, they look rather like ribs. I wonder, in the future, will Russia devour those 3 ribs? Because it cannot tolerate having NATO countries on its border for its own security. Possibly. The third beast is a little hard to understand, isn't it? A leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Now, historically, this would have been interpreted as the Greek Empire, its great swiftness and ferocity, and the 4 wings and 4 heads being Alexander the Great's 4 generals. But if this applies to the modern time, let's think about the leopard. It has a huge range. It inhabits from Africa to China. And this is where I think the emblem of the People's Liberation Army, the leopard, has significance. The Chinese word for leopard is bao, and it's also the same sound as the word for violence and force. Very, I think, appropriate for the People's Republic of China. Now, notice in Daniel's vision, the beast has dominion given to it. I think in the near future that China will be the dominant world power. And it already has a massive home range. It has its paws well and truly in Africa, all the way through to Asia. Now, exactly what the 4 heads are, I'm not sure. There are no obvious clues to that right now. It may be in the future it will have 3 allies with it. Like I say, it is already of significant influence throughout the world. And as far as 4 wings go, well, if you do a Google on 4-winged animals, you will only find dragons. Interesting, isn't that? The dragon, of course, is a well-known Chinese symbol. And China also has the only fossil of a 4-winged dinosaur, Changyuraptor youngi. Maybe it's a bit of an emblem, who knows? But the last beast is the one that really disturbed Daniel. It was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and had great iron teeth. And because of the iron teeth, commentators in the past would have ascribed it to the Roman Empire, the legs of iron and its iron fist, its destruction and ferocity. But actually, in my opinion, that's not it. This is the beast of Revelation, the end times world empire. It has 10 horns, like the beast of Revelation. And of course, it also mentions the little horn, which is the Antichrist himself. But notice how he calls it diverse from all the beasts that were before it. The truth of the 4th beast. Now, in the interest of time, I won't go through the whole passage in Daniel 7. But it's definitely about the end times. Just as in Revelation, The Antichrist makes war with the saints and prevails against them until God comes and destroys him. And it also says it shall devour the whole earth. This is in Daniel 7, is genuinely a world dominating empire. It is a world empire. It is a one world government. And notice the word diverse is mentioned 3 times in that passage. So how is it diverse? Well, its power comes from Satan himself. In Revelations 13:7, it clearly says so. The other world empires had major principalities, like the Prince of Persia, for example, but this is pure evil. This is Satan himself inhabiting the empire and possessing the Antichrist himself. And it's also very religious. Worship of the image of the beast is mandated. You'll be killed if you don't worship the image of the beast. It's a very religious empire. And it is the kingdom of the Antichrist. And Daniel sees the Antichrist being killed and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. The beast is a man as well as a spirit. And in Revelation 17, it talks about the woman that rides the beast having 7 heads and 10 horns. Remember, the beast in the final beast in Daniel 7 has 10 horns also. The beast you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. And so in John's time, when he's seeing the vision, the angels at his time, the beast was and is not. I think it's hard to understand, but I think that it is the Babylonian mystery religion that will rear its ugly head in the end times. Was not so active in John's time. It was the Roman Empire's official religion, which had shades of the mystery Babylon, but mystery Babylon itself went with the Babylonian Empire and Nimrod. And the fourth beast kingdom retains some of the characteristics of each of the beasts of Daniel. It looks like a leopard, so it will largely resemble the People's Republic of China and its huge army, its total surveillance and control. But it has the feet of a bear, so it has the strength and power of the bear of Russia. If you think the Russian army is not doing well in Ukraine, then you've been listening to the wrong propaganda. Ukraine has had 14 years of time and fortification and NATO advisors to prepare for this war, and it is getting clobbered. And it is little by little getting its army destroyed. So the power of the paw of the bear is not to be underestimated. But also the ferocity and the persecution of Rome, the Roman Catholic Church. The Inquisition will come fully alive when Mystery Babylon has its power back, and it'll be terrible indeed. So why do I say the Roman Catholic Church holds the reins as riding the beast, the UN beast? Well, you can do a bit of a dig for yourself. I'll just hit some of the highlights. There's an interesting organization called the Club of Rome, and it advocated dividing the world into 10 administrative regions. And the 10 kings of the beast in Revelation could well relate to the Club of Rome's suggestion. And you notice the United Nations logo has the Roman laurel leaves, like 2 hands either side of the globe, signifying the power of the Roman Catholic Church, which is the inheritor of the Roman Empire. holding the world literally in its hands. And you notice that there are 13 leaves on each hand. That's of occult significance right there. The United Nations is and always has been very evil and unrighteous. So the woman is called the whore in Revelation. Well, why is the whore Roman Catholic? Well, the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her spiritually. It doesn't take long for a newly elected president of the United States to make a trip to Rome and kowtow to the Pope. But have a look at the Bible. You know, there's plenty available about this, but you know, the woman is arrayed in purple and scarlet. Those are the colors of the cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church. The golden cup is an emblem of the Roman Catholic Church. She's drunk with the blood of the saints. And this history of killing real Christians has been sanitized. It's quite hard to find accurate estimates of what the Roman Catholic Church has done. But I've seen a figure of 40 million Christians have been killed by the Roman Catholic Church. And if you think that's a conspiracy theory, then go to Revelations 18:24. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Don't go to the conspiracy theories. Just read what it says. All that were slain upon the earth. Now, right from the beginning of the Reformation, the Jesuits were vowed to destroy the Protestant Reformation, and they have almost succeeded. But along the way, the body count was huge. Atheists love pointing out how religion has caused all these terrible wars. Well, they're partly right, but it's the Roman Catholic Church. The 30 Years' War and the 100 Years' War were wars of extermination against Christians. And if you believe the conspiracy theory, there was a Jesuit priest, Alberto Rivera, who maintained that Islam was also a creation of the Roman Catholic Church. And Islam has killed many millions of Christians in its time. World War I, World War II were Jesuit plots. Hitler was financed and supported by the Roman Catholic Church. He was a Roman Catholic. Stalin was a stooge of the Jesuits. He killed 40 million. And Mao and his colleagues, they were trained and educated by the Jesuits. They killed how many million? No one knows for sure. 50 million, maybe more. So you can see the body count of all that was slain upon the earth really can be laid at the door of the Roman Catholic Church. And it's going to continue. In fact, the Inquisition will, if the Book of Revelations is any guide, will continue at a horrific pace once she has total control. And her last end, well, the 10 horns, the 10 kings of the final Antichrist beast empire get tired of kissing the Pope, and they hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. God has a sense of poetic justice. And the woman that you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Have a look at Putin there, eye to eye with the Pope. Who's the boss there? Wouldn't you hate having your nose rubbed in it day after day if you're a king in the end times world empire? Yeah. So that's what's going to happen. But what can we as Christians expect? Well, unfortunately, the horn is given power over the saints, and he will overcome us. We will get burnt. We will get beheaded. but take heart. It's God's idea. And if you're planning on armed rebellion against this world empire, well, be prepared to die. He that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. And it only lasts 3.5 years. And our job as Christians is to be strong and do exploits. Now, whether you choose to do that with a sword or with a Bible is up to you. For me, Daniel says, they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end. So, those of us who are killed in that time, we get white robes and a harp, and we get to sing God's praises forever. We don't take the mark, we'll have victory over the beast and his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, and we'll stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. Isn't that wonderful? Something to look forward to. And what an adventure to be in these times now. So we are called to stand for righteousness, warn people not to take part in the beast system, not to comply, not to follow orders that are wicked, and especially not to take the mark, and to preach the gospel. These times, people know there's something up. These times, many people's hearts are hardened, but there are also many people who are willing to listen to the gospel. So, that's what it says. They that understand among the people shall instruct many. That's our duty, guys. And may God give us the grace to do our part in these difficult times ahead. Bless you all. Theophiliac, over and